2024 is shaping up to be a booming year for blockchain technology. It's one of the fastest growing technologies in all recorded history. We've seen an explosion of blockchain use cases in just the past few years with DeFi, NFTs, artificial intelligence, gaming, and so much more. And billions of dollars are flowing into the industry to build the next generation of blockchain applications, which presents a massive opportunity for everyday people to get high-value blockchain development skills so they can capitalize on this opportunity. Whether you want to break in the industry to become a highly paid blockchain developer, code a lucrative blockchain app that other people will use, build your own trading bot with DeFi and flash loans, whatever it is you want to do, I'm going to show you all the essential skills you need to know in this video to achieve your goals. I'm going to break everything down into a step-by-step roadmap that you can follow to go from zero to blockchain master, even if you've never coded before. I'm going to show you everything you need to know in this video today as a blockchain developer myself who works this technology on a daily basis ever since 2017. We're going to talk about all the questions that you need to know, like what blockchain should I use, what programming languages do I need to learn, how much can you make, and how do you break into the industry step by step. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. And I put a ton of time into creating this step-by-step roadmap completely for free on YouTube. And the only two things that I ask in return is that you smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and that you subscribe to this channel. And if you like what you see in this video today and you're compelled by this opportunity and you want to take the next step to become a real-world blockchain developer, then I can show you how to become a blockchain master in a matter of months over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. All right, so let's get into this roadmap on how to become a highly paid blockchain developer in 2024. So I'm remaking this video because I do it every single year. A lot has changed in this space, and I want to give you the most up-to-date information that you need to know in order to take advantage of this big opportunity. All right, so here's an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So first, we're going to look at the state of blockchain in 2024. We're going to talk about what's actually happening inside the industry right now and what has changed over the past few years. And, what's the opportunity like for developers? Once you get in the industry, how much money can you expect to make? What will you be doing? Okay. And then we're going to talk about the skills that you need to know. So we're going to talk about the programming languages that you need to master, all the frameworks and everything like that. And also ask the question like, hey, what do blockchain developers even do? And if I become one, like what kind of tasks will I perform? Then we're going to put everything into a step-by-step plan that you can follow, even if you don't have any coding experience, from basically like, here's the first thing that you need to learn, and then do this, do that, so that you can get the skills and also the steps after that that you want to use in order to, break into the industry, build your own app, trading bots, whatever. And then finally, we'll answer some frequently asked questions I get all the time, like, hey, should I learn blockchain first? Do I need to learn a bunch of other programming languages? Do I need a computer science degree? Can I do this without any coding experience, et cetera, et cetera? All right, so let's jump into section 1. Let's quantify the opportunity for blockchain developers. So like I was saying at the beginning of this video, blockchain is one of the fastest growing technologies of all time. And really what that does is it generates an insane amount of demand inside of the industry, okay? And it's basic supply and demand economics. So basically, if you have the demand for blockchain developers, which is really big, and the supply of people who actually know how to do this stuff is relatively small, there's a massive supply and demand imbalance. So when the demand is that big relative to the supply, that means that the price of compensation for blockchain developers is very high, especially compared to other fields in tech. So blockchain development is one of the highest paying fields in tech with a national average salary of about $150,000 per year. So how can you actually compare that to other salaries? Okay, so if you look at it compared to something like a web developer salary, the national average is $101,000, and something like a mobile developer, the average is $110,000. So the average is about 40 to 50% more than these other disciplines. Now, granted, that is for somebody with experience. Okay, you're probably not going to just watch this video and start making $150K per year, but that's what you can expect to earn on average over time with some experience, and how that compares to the other opportunities that you could potentially get into. And in addition to, having a high compensation, blockchain has all these other things going for it besides just the money. Okay, you're going to be working with really exciting technology that you can watch grow over time. Okay, it's actually an interesting field to work in. You get access to all types of other opportunities by being plugged inside the industry. It's incredibly remote friendly, so you can work from wherever you want, whenever you want. There's tons of opportunities to do things like freelancing and control your own hours. And outside of just getting a job, there's all types of other opportunities, okay? We've seen some really crazy stuff in the past, like the 12-year-old boy who made $400,000 in 2 months on a summer holiday by coding his own NFT project, or the 12-year-old girl who made $6 million with her NFTs by launching her project, not to mention all the crazy things that you can do by building your own trading bots with flash loans. I made a video on my channel about a month ago talking about a developer made $180,000 in a single month by building their own blockchain-based trading bots. So again, this is not like a trading bot that tries to predict the future about what the cryptocurrency price is going to do, is going to go up or down. It's actually capitalizing on opportunities in the marketplace right now where you can basically buy cryptocurrency on one exchange and sell on another exchange for a profit. And you don't even have to hold the cryptocurrency in order to do that. You can borrow it with flash loans. So I got several videos on my YouTube channel that show you how to do this type of thing. And this is something that's actively working right now. As I sat down to make this video, I actually found a transaction of somebody who made about $97,000 in a single transaction with their trading bot, all 100% verifiable on chain. All right, so now let's move on to this section. What skills do you need to know? So we talked about the opportunity in blockchain. It's one of the highest paying fields in tech. There's so many things you can do in blockchain, like get a job, become a freelancer, or work remotely. You can build your own bots, launch your own project. But whatever you decide to do, there's going to be a core set of essential skills that you must master, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now. All right, so in order to understand what blockchain developers are going to be doing, you need to understand the major use cases for blockchain. Now, this list is growing all the time, and I've updated this to talk about some of the hot trends that are emerging for 2024. So the first major use case for blockchains is what I'm going to put under the umbrella of decentralized finance, or DeFi. Now, this can include a lot of things. Number one, it really includes just cryptocurrencies, like how to basically send cryptocurrencies, move them around, exchange them, major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, but also Ethereum-based tokens, okay? So stable coins are a big part of this. Basically, how can you transfer cryptocurrencies and program them inside of applications where you can do this on a blockchain rather than a centralized way? So we've seen a ton of adoption in this area. We have people like PayPal launching their own stable coin that you can move around the blockchain to pay for things. We have other aspects of DeFi, like major traditional financial use cases like trading, lending, borrowing, all moving on a chain. You can see applications like that with Aave, where you can basically deposit cryptocurrency into this like a bank and then borrow cryptocurrency on the other side. There's so many things under this DeFi umbrella because, finance is a perfect fit for blockchain because blockchain is a pay-to-play system. And, when people are doing anything in finance, they're usually paying in the first place. They need cryptocurrency to do that, and it's a natural fit. So that's by far the biggest one. So behind that is with NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, okay? So most people think of NFTs like digital collectibles. They might see a popular NFT collection like CryptoPunks or Bored Ape Yacht Club, where basically you can own an item on the blockchain. It's really popular, but I am particularly excited about what we can do with non-fungible tokens behind just digital collectibles. We can do lots of other things like model intellectual property rights, okay? We've got big projects like Story Protocol doing that. We can actually facilitate ownership and transfer of value inside of real estate. We can also do things like tokenize real estate so that people can buy fractional shares in properties. We're really just scratching the surface of what we can do with NFTs, and I really anticipate this use case to continue to grow into 2024 and beyond. So next is a use case of Web 3.0. So basically taking all the Web 2.0 things we do now and porting them over to use blockchain and other decentralized services. So this is a very experimental field of technology, but some of the trends that we're seeing really take off inside of Web 3.0 are like decentralized social media, or Web 3.0 based social media, where you can take advantage of things like censorship resistant, where you can actually own content inside the space. And Lens Protocol is one of the leaders in the space who's doing that. In addition to that, crypto gaming is really heating up inside of 2024, where basically you can play games that lets you own digital assets inside the game and actually take those out and put them into a wallet on a blockchain where you own them outside of the game. You can trade them, you can self-custody them, do whatever you want to. Artificial intelligence is another sector that's really heating up inside the blockchain space. We've, of course, seen an explosion of AI in the past year or so, and there's a big overlap between AI and blockchain. And we're seeing some really impressive implementations inside of here where we can do things like better with AI and blockchain with things like zero-knowledge machine learning, or ZKML. And then finally, another big use case for blockchain that's taking off in 2024 is decentralized physical infrastructure, or DePIN. So basically, this is where you can take the model of like AWS or Amazon Web Services, where you have cloud computing that's centralized, and then decentralize it where anybody can participate in running their computer hardware, where other people can basically use it and they can get paid as an incentive for doing that. All right, so those are some of the types of major use cases that we have for blockchains in 2024 and beyond. But now let's actually talk about, why would you even use a blockchain in the first place? What about it, makes these other use cases possible to do it this way and not some other way? Well, the values of blockchain are decentralization, which basically means instead of having a centralized system where, there's a single point of failure and one person has the control, you decentralize it and you spread the responsibility out to multiple people where they all participate in doing this and there's fewer points of failure, okay? So also censorship resistance. So basically, no central entity can just, change something, right? Blockchains, you can't really do that because everybody's participating in the network. So trustlessness, you don't have to trust any intermediaries when you're making transactions or working with the data from the blockchain. And then finally, transparency. You can see everything that's happening on the blockchain and actually audit yourself. All right, so in order to understand that, let's actually get into a little bit of theory, some basics about what is a blockchain and how does it work. So basically, a blockchain is just a worldwide computer that lots of people participate in running, okay? So basically, a blockchain is just a peer-to-peer network of nodes that all talk to one another, just like this, to where each node is a computer. Like this is a computer, this is a computer, this is a computer, and this is a computer, but they all work in redundant effort to make up a single computer that processes everything that happens on the blockchain. So for example, if you're making a cryptocurrency transaction, let's just say I want to send cryptocurrency from my account to yours, I would sign that transaction and send it to one of these computers, and then all the computers in the network would share the responsibility of saying, hey, this transaction's actually legit, it's valid, and we want to include that into the blockchain to actually update your balance. Now, you want to do this with a blockchain rather than some centralized way because it wouldn't be a very good idea to just let somebody who runs a web server control a money supply, right? Because anybody who had full control over that, they could just change your balance anytime they wanted to and steal your money. So instead, you want to put that out on a public ledger that multiple people are responsible for, that you have transparency into seeing how that works. You can see every transaction. It's not going to get censored. And you can trust it that there's no intermediary or single point of failure. And so that's how we can use blockchains for basic, cryptocurrency transactions. But then when you add in smart contracts, that really changes the game for what's even possible with blockchain in the first place. So smart contracts are just programs that run on the blockchain. And that's part of what you do as a blockchain developer is you are a smart contract developer. You're making these immutable programs that can't change, and you're putting them on the blockchain so that you can build any type of custom interaction that you want to. So there's lots of use cases for smart contracts, like lots of the cryptocurrencies that you actually use are powered by smart contracts. Any token that you have that's not a native gas token on the network usually is a smart contract. Any NFT that you own is going to be a smart contract. And anytime you're using a decentralized application like a decentralized exchange like a DEX, for example, or any of the DeFi apps that are listed, those are powered by smart contracts and put in the blockchain. And that's what gives birth to all these other use cases like DeFi, NFTs, Web 3.0 gaming, AI, and like DePIN. So let's talk about, the values of blockchain and how they are embodied into these use cases and why you might want to do this with blockchain instead of some other way. So with DeFi, in cryptocurrency, obviously, we talked about how you don't want to have somebody with single control over your money supply. That's pretty obvious. But with other things like savings and lending, basically it's permissionless. Anybody can go do savings and lending without having to be whitelisted to do that. If you want to go to a blockchain app and then borrow money, you can do it. You can also do things like, flash loans where you can borrow millions of dollars of cryptocurrency for free as long as you pay it back in the same transaction. And that's only possible because of the transaction processing that you can do on blockchain with smart contracts. So also with NFTs, obviously you want something that's digitally scarce that you can prove that nobody can tamper with, whether it's a digital collectible or you're talking about ownership in real estate. With Web 3.0, with like the social media use case that I talked about, censorship is a big problem in social media that is top of mind for a lot of people. And, Web 3.0 social media presents some alternatives to get around that type of censorship. With Web 3.0 gaming, if you have some type of in-game asset, obviously you want to be able to take full control over that asset without any type of intermediary. With artificial intelligence, we can basically improve the transparency of what's happening in AI, and the decentralized physical infrastructure gives us a way to take cloud computing and to spread the responsibility out to multiple people to avoid any type of centralized control. All right, so now let's talk about what type of blockchain developer you should be. Because when somebody says blockchain developer, it can mean a couple of different things. And you need to narrow down on exactly what that is so that you can determine the skills that you need in order to achieve your goal. And I'm going to help you do that right now. So broadly speaking, I would sort of classify blockchain developers into two major camps. So one is going to be application developers and the other is going to be core developers. So core developers are going to be basically building like blockchain infrastructure, nodes, clients, and really low-level architecture, okay? And the other side is going to be application developers, people who are building user-facing applications that users are actually clicking on and using. So like if you're going to go trade a token on Uniswap, you're doing that through a website that talks to smart contracts on top of the blockchain. That's something the user can see. And that's the track that I recommend doing. It's what I personally do. Now, if you're dead set on becoming a core developer, you can do that. But the reason that I focus on application development, that I personally do it and I help other people do that as well, is because, core development is more of a niche skill set, okay? It's going to be less demand and it's even harder for beginners to learn, as opposed to application development, which is a lot easier for new people to learn or even experienced developers. And there's more demand for it, so you have more options about, where you can work in this industry and also how to build your own useful applications. And so if you already know that you want to become a core developer, you can definitely do that. But if you're just getting into this space and you don't know what you want to do, I definitely highly recommend becoming an application developer for all the reasons that I just mentioned. So that being said, once you've decided to become an application developer, that really breaks down into a couple different categories, okay? Because, blockchain applications have multiple layers to them. They have the smart contract side of things, which lives on the blockchain. Again, these are the immutable programs that you write to put on the blockchain. But then, you're still going to have user-facing features. I'm going to show you some examples of real-world blockchain applications here in a minute that have like websites and mobile clients that people will actually use to interact with the applications. So the front end is what the user sees, either a website or a mobile app. And as a developer, as a blockchain developer, you can actually work on this part of the stack as well, okay? And so with the back end side of things, we still use traditional databases inside blockchain development for things that aren't as important to put on the blockchain, okay? But we also treat the blockchain like a backend in and of itself. So, developing smart contracts and putting them on the blockchain is kind of part of the backend side of blockchain as well. All right, so now let's look at some examples of real-world blockchain applications and how they're actually created. Okay, how does it work? And if you're a developer, what do you do in order to create something like this? How does the front end work? How does the back end work? What's the application do? So we're going to start off with Uniswap, which is the most popular blockchain application by far. So it is a decentralized exchange, or a DEX, where basically you can trade cryptocurrencies with a single click of a button. All right. So basically how it works is you go to the Uniswap website, you get your blockchain wallet, like MetaMask, for example. You can see my little fox icon up here in my browser, and you tell it what cryptocurrency you have and what cryptocurrency you want back. So for example, I put in 1 Ether here and I say I want USDC. I just connect my wallet, click swap, and it spits out the cryptocurrency that I want. So how does it do that? Where does that cryptocurrency come from? Well, it comes from the back end of the application, which is powered by smart contracts on the blockchain with these things called liquidity pools. So Uniswap is what's called an automated market maker, which basically means there's a bunch of cryptocurrency parked into the app with these people called liquidity providers, who are basically, anybody that wants to just provide their cryptocurrency for a passive income reward. They give money to the application so that other people can trade it, and then they earn, a passive income reward for doing that. And so when I say like, hey, I want to swap tokens, that's where the money's coming from. And if you look at an application like Uniswap Info, that is the analytics for everything that's actually happening on the Uniswap protocol. You can see all the different cryptocurrencies that are currently trading on it, okay? And a lot of these are also Ethereum-based tokens, all right, that are powered by smart contracts that are being swapped around on the blockchain as well. And if you go to a website like Etherscan, okay, you can actually see the smart contracts for Uniswap. You can go through and read the code and see everything that's actually powering the protocol itself. You can go see all the transactions and everything that's happening on the exchange in real time. Now, let's break this up into multiple layers. Like what's on the front end, what's on the back end, what would a blockchain developer be doing in order to create something like this? Like let's say, hey, you wanted to create Uniswap from scratch. Well, that'd be a great portfolio project. And here's what you need to know in order to do that. So let's start off the back end. So again, when I'm using this website, it's talking directly to the blockchain. And what I'm showing you right here on Etherscan are the smart contracts that power the Uniswap protocol on the back end for the automated market maker. So you can see the code verified here on Etherscan. These are the smart contracts. So this programming language that I'm showing you right here is Solidity. So if you want to create, Solidity, if you want to create smart contracts for an automated market maker like Uniswap, you'll be coding those out in the Solidity programming language and putting them on any EVM compatible chain like, Ethereum, any Ethereum layer 2 like Optimism, Arbitrum, or another blockchain like Polygon or Avalanche, Binance Smart Chain, whatever. And then on the front end side, you have this website that actually talks directly to the blockchain. So, this is something that will be created completely separately, all right? And instead of creating something like this in Solidity, that's what you'd use for the blockchain side of things, you do this in a different programming language, primarily with JavaScript, okay? So JavaScript is a widely used language in the blockchain space. I'll talk about that more in a minute in the technologies and programming language you need to learn. But basically, you need JavaScript in order to create a website just like this so that other people can actually use your blockchain application. You're also going to need to use some HTML and CSS to, code this application out. But JavaScript's going to facilitate everything that you can see inside the application, all the user interactions. Anytime someone connects their MetaMask, you're going to use JavaScript to accept that connection. Anytime they sign a transaction to do things like swapping and talking directly to the blockchain, you're going to use JavaScript on this front end to facilitate that as well. And so if you wanted to create an app like Uniswap all on your own, you would need to know Solidity to create the backend with the smart contracts, and you need to know JavaScript and HTML and CSS to code out the front end. Now, another thing I'll say is that oftentimes when you're in your professional setting, you have division of responsibilities. And so if you want to become a blockchain developer and focus on front end development, you can do that. All right. You can focus on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then know enough smart contract programming to be able to interact with that. And that's going to make you very valuable in a blockchain setting. All right, so now let's talk about how a blockchain application like NFTs would work, okay? So earlier in this video, I talked about the 12-year-old boy who made over $400,000 on his summer holiday, creating his own NFT collection. So let's just say that you want to do something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Bored Ape Yacht Club as an example of how to create something like this. So Bored Ape Yacht Club is definitely one of the most popular NFT collections indexed on a secondary marketplace like OpenSea, for example. And so how does it work? Well, basically, whenever you release an NFT, what you do is you have a NFT drop, or you have a website where you advertise like, hey, this is where we're going to release the NFT. And you can show up to the website with your MetaMask wallet, and then you can mint the NFTs for a price. And then whenever they sell out, they start trading on a website like OpenSea. So how would you create something like this? Well, first and foremost, let's start off with the smart contract side of things, because NFTs are powered by smart contracts in the blockchain. Again, the whole value here is that you have something that's digitally scarce on the blockchain where nobody can copy it, and you actually own that thing, and the blockchain enforces that, and only you can send it around, okay? So on the blockchain side of things, I've got the Bored Ape Yacht Club smart contracts pulled up here. So you need a smart contract in order to create this NFT project. So this smart contract is written in Solidity, just like Uniswap, which we saw a second ago. So if you want to create it, you need to create a Solidity smart contract and put it on a blockchain like Ethereum. Now, the good thing about a lot of these NFTs is they kind of work the same way, all right? And so they follow a very predictable standard called the ERC 721 standard, which is just a standard that we say, hey, we want to agree on how NFTs should work so they're compatible with our wallets, so that they're compatible with marketplaces like OpenSea. And you can more or less use a template to start off with and then customize that template with some additional coding to create an NFT project really fast, okay? So once you've done that, you're also going to need to create the artwork for your NFTs. So you can use an artwork generator. I've actually got some of those that you can see in my YouTube videos where you can essentially generate like 10,000 images completely from scratch and randomize them. But then you need a place to put those images. And that's exactly what IPFS is for. So IPFS is a decentralized file storage system. It's not really a blockchain. It works kind of like a blockchain, but that's where you put your images, because you don't really want to put pictures in a blockchain. You put them out here so that they're permanent, and then you get a hash that's the location of that image, and then you put that back inside your smart contract. And then when you go see it inside your wallet or on OpenSea, it can talk to the smart contract, find the image, and display it in your browser or your wallet. Okay, so in addition to the smart contracts for the NFTs and the artwork and putting that out there, if you're going to drop an NFT and have people come up to a website and then buy it, you need to create a website for that. Okay, so again, the core skills and technologies that are here are going to be more for front-end development. So you need to know HTML and CSS and JavaScript in order to create the website, all right? Now, in addition to that, you need to have some very specific skills for your website that enable it to talk to the blockchain. So if people show up with their MetaMask wallet, you need to be able to use that wallet inside the website. So that's exactly what a library like Ethers.js is going to do. It's going to turn your application into a blockchain application so that it can connect their MetaMask wallet. And whenever they click buy on your NFT, it can submit that transaction straight to the blockchain. And that's exactly what Ethers.js does. And you have to do that part in JavaScript as a front-end developer. All right, so now let's look at another type of blockchain application. And this time it's going to be a mobile app. So this is Rainbow Wallet. So it is a blockchain wallet that runs on your phone. You can do things like buy cryptocurrency, with your credit card. You can hold cryptocurrency in your wallet in a safe and secure way. You can send cryptocurrency to other people. You can hold NFTs, send them around. You can also swap cryptocurrencies directly inside the application. Okay, so what would you need to do in order to create something like this? So first and foremost, you need to be able to create a mobile app. So you can do that a few different ways. You can do this natively in the programming language for each different operating system because mobile apps typically run on iOS or Android, and they use different programming languages. So if you're going to code an iOS app, you could write it in Swift, okay? And if you're going to code an Android app, you could do it natively in Java. But the nice thing about knowing JavaScript, totally separate programming language, is that you can use things like React Native to code out an application that can deploy to either platform, okay? So if you know JavaScript, you can write mobile apps that are going to run on either iOS or Android. That's the really nice thing about knowing that language. And so I'm just going to say you're going to do that for now. So if you know JavaScript, you can create the mobile application that way, but then it actually has to talk to the blockchain and do a couple other things. It has to be able to store the user's private key securely on the device, okay? So you can use libraries like Ethers.js to create wallets, and you can use ways to, safely store the private key on the device in an encrypted way where it can never leave the device. The user private key is totally safe, all right? If you're going to, basically have user payments where they can buy cryptocurrency with their credit card, you can use services like MoonPay to basically make those API calls and then get the cryptocurrency back and store it on their wallet. And if you want to, add all the features like, sending cryptocurrency out of the wallet to other people's accounts, doing the swaps, then you're going to be able to talk to those external blockchain applications directly from the mobile application. Now, if you're using JavaScript, the nice thing is you can use a library like Ethers.js, which will let you talk to any smart contract on the blockchain directly from the application inside of JavaScript. And you can also do things like send transactions for basic cryptocurrency transactions directly to the blockchain with Ethers.js as well. All right, so now let's talk about what programming languages should you learn and which blockchain should you use. So I'm going to answer both these questions at the same time. So let's look at the major programming languages that are available for blockchain developers and what each of them do and which ones that you should learn. So we're going to start off with Solidity right here. So this is the primary language for writing Ethereum smart contracts and for other EVM compatible chains. So if you know Solidity, you can write smart contracts and put them on Ethereum, but you can also put them on other blockchains like Binance Smart Chain, Avalanche, any of the Ethereum layer 2s, Polygon, etc., etc. So the other options are things like Rust and C++. So if you want to write smart contracts for the Solana ecosystem, then you definitely need to know Rust, okay? But then we have these secondary programming languages like JavaScript and Python. So for JavaScript, you can do things like create the user interfaces like the websites or the mobile applications that I talked about in the previous section. You can also do things like write tests for your smart contracts and automations and deploy them to the blockchain and write backends. And then you have Python, which also does a lot of the same types of things, but you can't really create websites very easily with it, okay? So now, which of these programming languages should you learn? Now, I'm going to give you a very opinionated stance on this, but this comes from lots of experience inside the industry, helping lots of other people break in and learn and do this type of stuff. So let's kind of look at some real world data to answer this question. And let's look at where the actual let's look where actual programming languages are getting used and which blockchains are actually getting used more than others. So if you look at a website like DeFi Llama and you look at the activity on different blockchains, you're going to see that Ethereum is by far the largest blockchain that's used, okay? And if you look at all the other blockchains behind it, like Tron, Binance Smart Chain, that's over 2/3. And also, if you include this, it's a majority of the blockchains basically use Solidity as their smart contract programming language, okay? So Solidity is the most demand in terms of actual blockchain usage. You can see things like Solana on here, which is a much smaller slice of the pie. Again, these ratios kind of change over time, but the big picture here is that Ethereum and the languages that are used for Ethereum have been dominant for a very long time, and I anticipate to stay in dominance. And so just in summary, Solidity is the most demanded language across all these different smart contract development platforms. So if you go back and look at that, really you got two kind of forks in the road for your smart contract development language, either Solidity or mostly something like Rust, okay? So why would you choose Solidity over something like Rust? Well, there's several major reasons. Number one with Solidity, again, the demand, which I was just showing you a minute ago. You want to go where there's a lot of demand. Also, when there's a lot of demand and there's a lot of developers, you want to be in an ecosystem where you can get help if you get stuck, okay? You don't want to be stuck inside of an ecosystem where you're trying to figure out how to do something and the developer tools aren't very good and you can't reach out and Google it on Stack Overflow or ask ChatGPT the answer, and it can't really give you the answer because the technology is so new. So Solidity's been around for a while. The developer ecosystem is very large, and you're gonna go with support if you go down that direction. Now, the other big reason to learn Solidity over something like Rust, especially if you're a beginner, is that Solidity is a much more beginner-friendly language to learn. So if you're starting from scratch, Rust is a lot harder to learn. It's a much more low-level language. Solidity is much more high level. It reads a lot like JavaScript, and it's easier to pick up whether you're an experienced developer or just starting from scratch. And the other big reason for Solidity is you have all this flexibility. Again, if you can write apps with Solidity, you can put them on almost every single blockchain out there with just a few exceptions. And so for all these reasons, my number one recommendation for anybody getting into this space, if you don't know what you want to do, you should learn Solidity as your smart contract development language for the back-end side of blockchain development. Now let's talk about another programming language, because if you're going to become a blockchain developer, you almost always need to know a secondary programming language to do things besides just write smart contracts, okay? You need to be able to write tests for your smart contracts, any type of scripts or automations. And then also, typically speaking, you want to be able to create some type of user interface that somebody can use your application, okay? So they can see it actually working. And so you kind of got two different options in this regard. For your secondary programming language, you can use JavaScript, or you can use Python, okay? My recommendation is to go down the JavaScript route for a few reasons. Number one is that there's just more that you can do with JavaScript, okay? Like I said, you're going to need to do all these other tasks, but typically speaking, you want to create some type of front-end applications that people can actually see your application and work, especially if you're trying to create a portfolio so that you can break into the industry. Most people want to see your app and actually be able to use it. And you're not going to get that flexibility really with Python. Python's a really great, powerful language if you know it already. It's a great thing to have in your tool belt if you're going to do more scripting and automations and backends with your smart contracts. But you need to have something to show other people, and that's exactly what JavaScript's going to allow you to do. So if you know JavaScript, you can do all these other tasks that Python can still do, but then you get this added benefit of being able to, create front ends. And also, if you know JavaScript, it's the lingua franca of the web. Most developers know JavaScript, so you'll be able to communicate with them and then share code with them. And also, if you know JavaScript, it gives you an additional point into the industry where you could break into the blockchain industry as a front-end developer. That sometimes that's a really easy way to get started and then work your way into the smart contract development side of things. And so in summary, if you don't know what you want to do and you're just getting started in this space and you want my opinionated stance on how to get started, you want to learn Solidity for smart contract development because it's the easiest one to learn. It's the most widely supported, and you've got the most options about where you can use it. Okay, it's also the most demand. And then picking JavaScript as your secondary programming language because you can do way more with it. It's going to open up so many possibilities for you as a blockchain developer and also just a regular developer. All right, so now let's talk about all the tools and technologies that you need to know in order to become a blockchain developer. So in the last section, we talked about the programming languages like Solidity and JavaScript. But then there's some additional tools that you need to have in your toolkit to actually create these applications. So let's go through those one by one. So the first one definitely is Solidity. Okay, so again, this is going to be the main programming language that you're going to use to write smart contracts. Again, these are the building blocks of blockchain-based applications. So Solidity is a pretty beginner-friendly language to learn. So if you're starting from scratch, it's pretty easy to pick up on the grand scheme of things compared to other languages. And if you're an experienced developer already, you can kind of get what's happening with that Solidity pretty quickly. It's a Turing-complete programming language. You can do, almost everything that you can do in any other programming language directly inside of Solidity. Now, again, you need some type of secondary programming language in order to create blockchain applications, whether you want to write tests, deploy the contracts, write scripts, put them on a blockchain. And that's what I highly recommend that you use JavaScript for. Because at the end of the day, most people are going to want to go to your application and actually see it and click a button in order to do something, and that's what you should use JavaScript for. So now let's actually talk about different frameworks and tools that you can use on your computer in order to build the smart contracts and build the applications as a blockchain developer. So the main framework that you need to know about is Hardhat. So first, let's back up and talk about what is a framework in the first place. So a framework is just a set of tools that you set up on your computer that facilitates the development process and makes it a lot easier so that you're not doing everything from scratch, okay? You're gonna have certain types of things you do over and over again, like create new smart contracts, run tests, write scripts, deploy them, and you don't wanna do all this stuff like completely manually. There's a lot of tools outside the box that you get from a Hardhat, from a smart contract development like Hardhat. So Hardhat is the number one smart contract development that I recommend for smart contract developers, okay? You can do things with it like create smart contracts. You can run Solidity locally on your computer. You can debug your smart contracts. You can write tests for them. They have all types of plugins that you can add to your development environment. You can extend it in any way that you want to. You can write it in TypeScript if you so choose. And also it's got the hard hat nodes that you can run a development blockchain on your computer, which I'll talk about here in a second. And so that's what hard hat is. It's a smart contract development framework that you run on your computer. Okay. And that's my number one recommendation for creating smart contracts on your computer. But what if you want to create smart contracts in your browser with an IDE? Well, that's exactly what Remix is. So Remix is a workspace where you can code smart contracts in your browser without having to install anything on your computer. So this can be nice if you just want to create a smart contract without having to install anything, okay? Or you want to hand test some things with a smart contract in your browser. That's exactly what Remix is. You can go see it at remix.ethereum.org. You can add new files over here. You can save them in the cloud. You can also do things like compile the smart contracts inside your browser. And if you connect your MetaMask wallet to it, you can actually deploy the smart contract live to a blockchain straight from your browser. You can also use a fake blockchain inside your browser so that you can, test things out without having to spend any real cryptocurrency. Now, I don't consider this something that you're going to want to use for like big professional projects. This is more for like lightweight types of development. If you're going to do more professional development where you need to like actually save your work and push it up to the cloud and collaborate with other developers and do something more for keeps, then I highly recommend using a fully fledged framework like Hard Hat, for example. But Remix is a nice thing to have in your tool belt. All right, so now let's talk about some libraries that you need to understand and use if you're going to become a blockchain developer. So definitely is going to be Ethers.js. So what is this? Well, this is a JavaScript library that lets you interact with, the blockchain itself. So let's look at an example of why you would need it in the first place. So if you go back to our example of Uniswap, the most popular blockchain application out there, where basically you just tell it what cryptocurrency you have and which cryptocurrency you want back. Let's say you want to swap Ether for USDC. You go in here, you connect your MetaMask wallet, you click a button, and you swap the tokens. And whenever you perform that swap, it basically submits that to the blockchain. And you cannot even talk to the blockchain out of the box in JavaScript. You need a special library to do that, and that's exactly what Ethers.js does. So basically, said another way, Ethers.js turns your application into a blockchain application. And so for that reason, Ethers is a must-know library. It's the most popular JavaScript library for interacting with different blockchains. You can do things like get user balances, you can send cryptocurrencies around, you can deploy smart contracts, you can talk to other smart contracts like Uniswap and actually make swaps inside of JavaScript from the application itself. All right, so the next tool that you need to understand is MetaMask. So what is it? Well, it's just a browser extension that basically turns your web browser into a blockchain browser. So a second ago, I was talking about Ethers.js turns your application into a blockchain application. Well, basically most web browsers don't support connection to the blockchain outside of the box. You need a special browser extension to do that. That's what MetaMask does. So it turns your web browser into a blockchain browser, just like Ethers.js turns your application into a blockchain application. So in order to use any blockchain application, people need a wallet installed like MetaMask. They can see this little fox icon up here in my corner. They can connect to it. They can connect to an app like Uniswap. They can sign transactions from their wallet to swap tokens on the blockchain itself. And you need to have that installed and understand how to use it in order to create these types of blockchain applications. So it's kind of confusing because it's a wallet. It lets you hold a cryptocurrency, but also if you're going to sign any transaction inside of a blockchain app, you have to sign it from that extension as well. All right, so the next major library and framework that you need to understand is React.js. So if you're going down the JavaScript route and you're going to create user interfaces for your application, you can create those in JavaScript, but I highly recommend using a JavaScript framework to make your life much, much easier. All right, and the most popular framework by far is going to be React.js. So React is a library for creating user interfaces. You can use React to create websites. You can use it to create mobile applications. Okay, it's a component-based library where basically you can organize your code into reusable components that are very organized and modular so that you can maintain your code base much easier. It gives you a lot of powerful functionality out of the box for free so that you have to code everything out from scratch. So React is my number one recommendation for creating front ends for your blockchain applications. You can do things like import Ethers.js into your React application and turn it into a blockchain application. Now, another one you need to have on your radar is Next.js, because this is sort of like the modern version of React. People have really migrated from using vanilla React out of the box to using Next.js, which really is just a superset of React. And if you know React, you can basically transfer everything over to Next.js with really minimal changes. All right, and the final thing you need in your tool belt is Node.js. So what is it and why do you need it? Well, basically, if you're gonna be writing things in JavaScript JavaScript is a language that is native to your web browser. All right, that's the environment that it's designed to run in. But if you want to use JavaScript like on your computer outside of the context of a web browser, you need a runtime environment where you can actually execute JavaScript. And that's exactly what Node.js is for. Now, that's what enables you to do things like run Hardhat on your computer, where you can write JavaScript and develop your smart contracts that way. Node's going to be a core dependency that lets you do that. Also, if you want to write any type of scripts, you need Node.js to run those scripts on your computer if you're going to execute JavaScript in that environment. Now, another thing about Node.js is it comes bundled with Node Package Manager, which is the main thing that you're going to do to install all the other libraries that you need on your computer for blockchain development. Like if you want to install Hardhat, you're going to need Node.js so that you can install it with NPM. If you want to install Ethers.js on your computer, you need Node.js in order to download Ethers.js to use it for your blockchain applications. All right, so now let's put everything together into a step-by-step plan on how to become a blockchain developer completely from scratch. So before you get into actually learning the skills of blockchain development, if you haven't really used the blockchain that much before, then the first preliminary step is to actually go use some blockchain applications so that you can see what the user experience is like and actually get your hands dirty. And that's going to sort of set you up to understand how to develop the applications themselves. So the easiest way to do that is to just use a website like Uniswap, which I was showing you before. So if you've never set up a blockchain wallet before, you need to set up MetaMask, okay? If you've never held cryptocurrency in that wallet, you need to be able to do that, and then you need to be able to actually sign a transaction. So how would you do that step by step? So first of all, you need to install the MetaMask extension in your browser, okay? You need to set up a wallet where you can, see your account here, and you can see the actual cryptocurrency balance. But then you need to have some cryptocurrency in your wallet to pay the gas fees. Now, you could, sign up for a centralized exchange like Coinbase or Kraken inside the US and then buy some, gas tokens like Ethereum and then send them to your wallet. Or if you want to skip that step entirely, if you go to Uniswap, right now they have an option where you can just buy some crypto, directly in your browser with a credit card. Let's say that you want to just spend whatever your limit is, like $30 or something like that, in order to get started with this. Basically, you could fund your wallet that way. And you could just swap a token like Ether for USDC and then just see what that experience is like. And then look at the transaction receipt on the blockchain, watch that go through and just sort of be like, oh, that's how this stuff works, okay? So another option is if you don't care about swapping cryptocurrencies, you could do things like buy a low-cost NFT on something like OpenSea, for example. Again, you need a MetaMask wallet. You need to be able to have a gas token to buy those, like Ether, for example. You go through the same steps to follow this process. Now, I'll give you some alternatives if you don't want to spend a lot of money or you want to do this completely for free. I know the fees on a chain like Ethereum can be high. So what could you do instead? Well, Uniswap is supported by multiple different blockchains. So you could do it on a lower cost chain like Polygon for just a few dollars, okay? It's not that expensive, or any of the other layer 2 ecosystems for Ethereum like Arbitrum, Optimism, or Base blockchain. You can also buy the cryptocurrencies inside the Uniswap application with MoonPay directly with your credit card that way and just send it straight to your wallet. All right. Another option, if you want this completely for free, is Uniswap does run on test networks where you can use fake cryptocurrency in order to do this, but you have to go to a faucet and request some Ether to your wallet in order to do that as well. All right, so now that you've got a taste of what it's like to use the blockchain, let's actually talk about how to become a blockchain developer. And first, what I want to do is talk about the philosophy for how you should learn this, okay, and how to do it the fastest, most efficient, and effective way. So really, you should learn programming just like you would learn a foreign language. All right, so what's the fastest, best way to actually learn a foreign language? Well, it's by immersion, okay? So basically getting into a culture where you have to speak the language in order to keep up, okay? So it's really hard to learn a different language by just like getting a phrase book and studying the phrases and then like practicing that forever and hoping that you'll eventually get it. That's the wrong way to learn. And it's the same with programming, because what a lot of people try to do is they go to try to learn a bunch of programming languages, in isolation by themselves and learn the fundamentals of the programming language before they actually try to build real world applications. And whenever they get there, they don't have the context to see how that actually works. And they get confused and they can't do anything. So you should flip that around. Basically, you should learn to code by building applications through immersion, just like you learn a foreign language. You learn by doing, and you learn all the programming languages as you need to go by building real-world applications. And when people go try to learn programming languages in isolation, it's just like you hear this complaint in school all the time. People say like, when am I ever going to use this? I don't understand why I'm learning this. And that's exactly what you're going to feel like if you try to do a bunch of language tutorials first before you go build an application. But if you learn the programming languages as you go through immersion while you're building applications, then you're never going to ask that question. You're going to have the context while you're doing it. It's much faster and more effective. All right, so that's the philosophy of how you should learn blockchain development. But let's actually break this down into each incremental step. So step one is what I'm going to call guided development, okay? So what you're going to want to do is learn by doing in a guided fashion where an expert is taking you over the shoulder and showing you how to create a blockchain application where you're learning the coding languages as you go, while you're building that app. Whenever you finish, you'll actually have something of value and you learned a lot along the way. So how can you get started doing this today completely for free? Well, you can go to my YouTube homepage here. All right, you scroll down here, you can see this playlist called Free Blockchain Development Courses. And there's lots of different examples of these types of applications where you're going to build something and learn the programming language as you go. So I'm just going to pick one out from random here. This is like Code a Web 3.0 real estate app like Zillow step by step. And inside this video, I show you how to create a blockchain-based Zillow clone where you can buy and sell real estate with NFTs directly on the blockchain. So inside of this tutorial, what you're going to do is you're going to create the smart contracts that let people buy and sell real estate with NFTs. You're going to put the NFTs in the blockchain. You're going to let people pay for the purchase, in cryptocurrency, send it to escrow, let people sign up on the transaction, and then facilitate the actual transfer, the ownership of the sale once everything has gone through. And then you're also going to create a website where people can go shop for real estate online. And then once they find one, they can go through the process of actually purchasing it with cryptocurrency directly on the blockchain. So throughout this process, I will guide you step by step from square one, from creating the application from scratch on your computer, going in and creating the smart contracts fully guided along the way. So you'll learn Solidity through the process and you'll see how those smart contracts are created for this particular use case. You'll put that on a blockchain, and then we'll create this front-end application with React.js, with JavaScript, so that people can use it, and you'll learn the fundamentals of these programming languages while you're doing this. And inside of just a few hour period, you'll have a huge primer into how all this stuff works. And so you can see how that's way faster and more efficient than just like, hey, go do these JavaScript tutorials, and then, hey, go do these Solidity tutorials, and now we're going to code out an app. No, you condense all that stuff down in a guided fashion in just a few hour period. All right, so that's the first step in the guided development process, is basically take a more beginner-friendly tutorial like this that shows you the basics of the programming languages and how to create an application, step by step, where you're learning everything as you go. Now, that's really just the first step, okay? So all the free courses that I have here on my YouTube homepage, those are more what I would consider kind of like beginner level tutorials. Now, to take the next step in the guided development process, I highly recommend creating something a little more complex, something that's more professional grade, like you'd be asked to create at a job, or if we're going to create your own real world application, something that's much more industrial strength. So I'll show you an example. So this is the type of application that I would show you how to build in like the blockchain bootcamp, for example. Okay, this is a decentralized cryptocurrency exchange that you can actually use to swap real world cryptocurrencies. All right. It's got, a bunch of analytics inside of it, like candlestick charts to see the cryptocurrency price changes. You can deposit real cryptocurrencies inside of here. You can swap them. You can make orders in the order book. You can do the trades. It's got a very professional website. And that's the type of thing that you'd be more tasked to do at a real world job. Okay. And so if you go over the shoulder and you create something like this with an expert who's done it quite a bit, then you're going to get, you're going to raise your skills up to that level of that professional level so that you've got that before you can move on to the next step. All right, so once you've completed that guided development process where somebody basically is holding your hand throughout the entire process to create an application, you want to move on to this next step, is which I'm going to call unguided development. So at the end of the day, in order to become a professional developer, you have to get the skills where somebody's not telling you exactly what to do every time, okay? You actually have to be able to write code yourself without explicit instructions. So how do you develop that skill? Well, you do it through unguided development. So what do I mean by that? Well, basically, this looks like thinking of something that you want to create and then just figuring out, how do I write the code in order to do that? All right. Now, this can kind of be scary, but I want to show you probably one of the easiest ways to get started doing this. So that's to take an existing project that you've already built whether it's like one of these tutorials, like the real estate clone that I was showing you before, the Zillow clone, or maybe like the blockchain bootcamp exchange that I was showing you a second ago, and then taking something that you've already built, you've seen how it works, but then adding a new feature on top of it that it doesn't already do, okay? So like with the, real estate clone, maybe you want to let people, buy multiple properties at one time or something like that, okay? That'd be a simple feature, and you should think about, okay, I've already seen how to do one property. How can I make it do two? All right. But if even that scares you, you can start with a simple task like, how do I change the color on the page? Or how do I change the name of this smart contract? You can really start simple and then make it more complex. You can increase the challenge over time. Now, that's how you get your feet wet. That's how you start, creating new code where you don't have the instructions, is to base it off something you've already seen and then just start changing it. Now, you want to kick that up to a notch after that and eventually create a complete application from scratch, okay? So how do you do this? Well, you can still take what you've learned before, because through the guide development process, you've seen how to create an app, all right? You can do that. You can reference how you did it before. You've seen how to create a smart contract. You can start to do that. And then you'll start to notice patterns. Like once you've done stuff multiple times, you'll be like, okay, I need to do this inside my smart contract in order to do that. But first and foremost, you want to pick a project. So pick like any type of blockchain project. If you want just an example of something you could create a basic NFT marketplace like OpenSea, where people can just like list NFTs on there and they can buy them. So you have to reverse engineer inside your head. What do I need to do that? Well, I need to have an NFT. Well, I saw how to do that inside this real estate clone. So boom, I'll create a new NFT just like that. I need to be able to list the NFT in the marketplace. Well, I saw that inside the real estate clone, and I'm going to try to use what I learned there to create my own smart contract that lets them list it on a marketplace. Okay. And then you can see how you put all the knowledge together from previous things that you've done to create something new completely from scratch. And through this iterative process over and over again, you'll be able to create a real world application for yourself without somebody else's help. And that's how you take your skills up to the next level. Now, once you've finished creating that, you will have basically completed the unguided development process. And then boom, you've created an application all on your own. Now, you want to show everybody that you've done this, because this is how you prove that you have the skills. So what you're going to want to do is take the smart contracts for that application that you created, put them live on a blockchain. You can just use a test network, so you don't have to pay any real cryptocurrency in order to do this. You want to take your website and deploy it live to the web so that other people can connect to your application and actually use it. You want to send that link out to your friends and get some feedback. All right, let them use it, make sure it actually works. And then you can use this as your main portfolio project that you can use as your resume piece whenever you're going to start applying for jobs or building your own applications, whatever it is. All right, so once you've got that application out there in the wild so that other people can use it, now you're going to want to take that application and actually put it into a portfolio website that you can use to market yourself as a blockchain developer. Okay, so you can see, all types of different portfolio websites that are out there. Basically, what you want to do is make this like your digital business card and your resume, okay? Because this is really important, because 99% of developers will not even do this step. And if you do this step, it's going to put you way ahead of other people, because when other people are trying to break in the industry and network with other people or apply for jobs, a lot of times they're just like sending out PDF resumes that are just getting lost in their employers' inboxes, okay? But if you actually take the time to create a portfolio website, that's going to help you stand out like crazy. So basically, it's going to show people who you are and what you can do, and it's going to pre-qualify you in a way that shows that you're going the extra mile and presents you in a way higher, caliber than somebody who just sent out a resume. So once you create that portfolio website that tells people who you are and what you can do, you're actually going to show them what you do. You're not going to just tell them, you're going to show them what you can do. And that's exactly what your portfolio project does. So you got your project and your website. Your website tells them who you are, but then you're going to take that project that you deployed live to the web and then put it in your portfolio site so they can see it, they can click through to it, and they can actually use the application to prove that you can do what you say you're going to do. And then you can take the code that you've written, you can put it on a website like GitHub to open source it, where they can go through and see the code and look through it and say that, hey, yeah, this person's got their head on straight. They can actually write code. And a bonus tip here is that you can create a video inside your portfolio project that sort of like tells people who you are and, explains your application and how to use it, because a lot of times people just kind of want to pre-qualify you before they even talk to you. If they see a video of you and a portfolio that looks great, they're going to get a sense of what it's like to work with you and what you can do and how you communicate. And it's going to get you, way ahead of everybody else where they don't really get that connection unless they go through something like this. So highly recommend creating a portfolio that shows people who you are, what you can do, communicates, and then has your projects to show that you actually have the skills to pay the bills. All right, so once you've gone through the unguided development process, you've created a portfolio application, you've created a portfolio website, you've put it out there, it's time to start marketing yourself as a blockchain developer. So let's talk about, when should you start applying for blockchain jobs? Because this is a really common question. Well, I'm going to give you a counterintuitive answer. Well, I say that as soon as you have a portfolio project out there in the wild that shows that you can do this, then that's when it's time to start applying, because most people wait way too long. They get to their portfolio and think, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready to start. And they kind of get this imposter syndrome and this fear of taking action, and they wait way too long to really go down the process. That's not what you should do. You should start applying right away. Now, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily just going to instantly get a job, right? That's not what I'm saying. But you're going to get that feedback really quickly, because you need to learn what it's like to apply for a job in the first place. That's kind of a little bit of a skill in and of itself, so you can start that stuff immediately. And then if you get any type of feedback from the marketplace on ways that you can improve, then you can start taking action on that, because you don't want to wait, months down the road to get that feedback, because you're going to wait so much longer. So that's my recommendation. As soon as you have a portfolio, as soon as it's out there in the wild, then it's time to jump in to the job search. All right, so now let's talk about how do you actually get a job in blockchain. So there's multiple different strategies, and you kind of have to take inventory on, what advantages do you have or disadvantages do you have, and how can you, what strategy is right for you based on your current situation. So the first thing I'll say is, if you know anybody who works at a blockchain company and you have any type of referral of somebody who can vouch for you, then that's definitely going to be one of the absolute fastest ways to get a job, okay? Because then you can cut through the application process. If somebody can vouch for your skills, you can have a referral. It's going to increase the likelihood that you can get hired at a company, just exponentially. Okay. Now, I know most people don't have that option, but some people do, and they forget that that's one of the best ways to do it. So I want to bring that up in this video. Also, if you are a developer already and you're at a company that uses blockchain or wants to start using blockchain, then I see this happen a lot, where basically people can kind of create a job for themselves at their current company. Again, this is not an option for most people, but I want to throw it out there in case that does apply to you. All right, so if you don't have either of those options available to you, then how can you basically find a blockchain job if you're just starting from scratch? Okay. So you can just go the traditional route of just like looking for jobs online with traditional job postings, like, on Indeed.com. You can just search for, jobs for a blockchain developer, and then go down that road. Now, some tips if you're looking on job postings on websites like this. You want to be looking for different types of keywords, okay? You want to be looking for blockchain developer. You want to be looking for Solidity developer, blockchain engineer. Any type of keyword that's related to blockchain developer will help you find stuff that may get hidden if you're just searching for one type of term, okay? You can also look for specific things like junior Solidity developer, junior blockchain developer. Now, one common problem that I see with people when they go down this road is they look at job postings that require all kinds of experience that they feel like they don't have. They say, oh, I need like 5 years of experience in this or 2 years of experience in this. Well, what if I don't have any experience, right? Well, what I would say is, as long as you meet like 50% of the requirements that are listed on the job posting, then it's okay to apply, all right? Because, people want certain levels of experience, but they can't always get that based on the supply that's actually in the marketplace. So it never hurts to apply, even if you don't meet all the criteria. So another thing that I'll say is, some people say, well, I don't see junior developer jobs listed. So I do see lots of specific junior developer jobs listed all the time, but they're going to be fewer than these other ones. One of the reasons is people, often have to pay to advertise on these websites, and they get a higher ROI of paying to advertise for more senior developer roles. But what you can do is, if somebody's hiring a mid or senior level position, many times, not all the time, but many times they will potentially be open to hiring a junior developer. So even if you don't see a junior job, you can still reach out to the company and see if they'd be willing to hire you as a junior. So in addition to Indeed.com for traditional job postings, you can look at crypto-specific websites like CryptoJobslist.com. They're going to have special filters for things like Solidity developers or just developer jobs that are specific for crypto. All right. Again, you can look at other types of things where Maybe you want to look at front-end developer jobs for a blockchain company where you start off with JavaScript and maybe you're not doing as much Solidity, but you know how to interact with the blockchain. That's a good way to get started in the industry as well. So in addition to just applying for jobs online, there's different strategies that you can use to get your foot in the door and start working somewhere. So you can do things like do hackathons, okay? So this is an example like the ETH Global Hackathon. It's an online hackathon. You can also go to in-person hackathons where basically you show up, you code out a project for like a weekend or a week if it's like an online type of event, all right? And then you submit that project and other people judge it. And if you create a good project, like you can get in front of some eyeballs of other people that might want to hire you. And this is the type of thing where you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. If you want to create a portfolio project and do it through a hackathon, you can submit it here, all right? And then you can get people who might potentially want to hire you. So, in-person hackathons are super powerful because, face-to-face interaction is one of the fastest ways to form a connection with somebody that might want to hire you. And kind of going on that note, one thing that you can do is look for local meetups, all right? If you live in a major metropolitan area, there might be blockchain developer meetups in your area. And if you can go to those can be some really powerful ways to make connections that can lead to your first role as a blockchain developer, okay? So that's actually how I became a developer. That's how I got my first professional paying gig as a developer. Again, I was a developer before I got into blockchain, but basically I went to local meetups in my area where there were other developers, and that's how I got hired. So what I would recommend here is that when you go to these meetups, you don't just walk in and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. You actually want to go and listen and contribute. And then as those conversations come up, you can be like, hey, yeah, here's what I've been doing. Show them that you have the experience, your portfolio, and say, I'm trying to get my first job. And then with those expectations set, you might be able to find who's hiring. And sometimes if you go around the room to meet up, people will be like, hey, we're hiring. And then you can, talk to those people when those conversations arise organically. So in addition to these like in-person meetups and hackathons, you can also leverage social media as sort of a different way to land a blockchain developer job. So one thing I would highly recommend is that you use LinkedIn if you're trying to become a developer. So the nice thing about LinkedIn is that it's basically a search engine for people who are looking for developers. So if you have a LinkedIn profile out there and you're actually posting content about, blockchain and blockchain development, and you have your profile set up where other people can see that you have the specific keywords in there, there are people searching on that platform who will find you and actually will send you messages. A lot of times these are recruiters, okay? Sometimes they're direct employers themselves, but you want to basically have that visibility as an option for you. You can also join groups inside of LinkedIn where people are talking about blockchain development. You can contribute to those types of things, and you might see hiring opportunities inside there as well. You can also take this strategy to other social media platforms like Twitter, for example, okay? And you can create a small web presence where you're just talking about the types of things you're building. Like while you're building your portfolio project, you can tweet about it. You can share out videos or pictures of what you're doing and explain it. You want to provide value out there into the world, and then you'd be surprised at what types of attention that can attract to you and what types of opportunities might come your way. You can also do things like get inside of Discord groups of projects that are actually building inside the blockchain space, and then, talk about, say you want to build a project based on their, technology. Well, you can start doing that and then ask them questions about how to do this, and that can naturally lead to conversations where, hey, maybe they're hiring, and because you're already building with their technology, then maybe that could be a natural fit for you to start working for them. So you can see there's all these different strategies that you can take towards getting your first job, whether it's whether it's like going the traditional route where you're applying for jobs, whether you're going to meetups, doing hackathons, whether you're posting out there on social media, getting your LinkedIn together. There's so many different levers that you can pull. And ideally, you want to be working with these things kind of all at the same time. You want to have a lot of different irons in the fire because you don't know exactly which one is going to hit first and which one's going to, provide the best opportunity for you. But if you have all these things in motion at the same time, it's going to increase the likelihood that something's going to work out for you faster. Now, whenever you get to that point, if you're just starting from scratch and you don't have a lot of development experience, what you want to do is lower your expectations for your first job. This is what I recommend for everybody. Basically, just figure out what you need in terms of your compensation just to kind of, get by initially, and then get in the door so that you can get that experience, because the real world experience is going to be the most valuable thing for you. And then once you've got that experience, you've got that on your resume to where you can ask for a raise later or find a new job that will hire you much faster because you have experience now where you didn't before. It's gonna be much easier to find your second job than your first job. So if you get your foot in the door, you get that experience, it's gonna make everything else easier after that for you. And when you go to try to get that first job, what you really wanna do is show them what you can do, use your portfolio, be honest about your skills, but also what you wanna do is clearly communicate that, hey, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get this job done. I'm hungry to learn. I'm here to provide value to you in whatever way that you need. You want to make it a lot about what you can contribute, not about what you're trying to get from them. All right, so that's an overview of the different levers that you can pull in order to get your first job. So again, you want to try to pursue as many things as possible. You want to talk to as many people as possible. You want to apply to as many places as possible, and then eventually something is going to hit. Okay. Now, again, I want to talk about rejection here because inevitably you're probably going to face some rejection during this process. That really sucks. I don't like getting rejected myself. I know what that feels like, but you have to take that as a learning experience and not let it set you back. The best thing that you can do from the rejection is try to get feedback from it and try to figure out, hey, why did I not get this job? Maybe it just wasn't a good fit, or maybe there's something you need to work on. If you can ask them what that is, and maybe they'll tell you what the answer to that is, and hopefully you can take that as constructive feedback to do that. But I believe that anybody with enough aptitude, which if you're watching this YouTube video, you probably have enough aptitude to do this, who goes through everything that I'm talking about and does this and is patient and just does this over and over again until something actually opens up, that the opportunity is for there, and it's totally worth it if you just stick with it. And once you finally get that job, it's time to sit back and celebrate. All right, so now let's get into some frequently asked questions that I get all the time, which is basically, should I learn blockchain first or should I go off and learn a bunch of other stuff like computer science fundamentals, algorithms and all this crazy stuff before I start specializing in actually learning blockchain development? So my answer is 100% no. You should not go learn a bunch of other stuff before you start blockchain. You should start learning blockchain, which if that's what you want to do, and that's what I recommend you do, you should start learning blockchain and learn everything else as you go. Okay, so here's why. And I actually changed my opinion on this over time. I used to think that you kind of needed some other basic programming knowledge before you got into blockchain, but I had to change my opinion after I helped thousands of other people learn blockchain, many of them who had never coded before. They started with blockchain and they use the exact methods that I teach in order to become blockchain developers without having to go learn a bunch of computer science fundamentals, algorithms, blah, 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 before they got into blockchain. So it all goes back to that principle that I was talking about earlier about immersion, where basically the fastest way to learn something is by learning through immersion and then getting the blockchain specific skills and then learning programming through that paradigm. And then once you do that more efficiently and you go through that process, you know how to program, you know how to program for blockchain, and then you get some basics of computer science and all this other stuff. Now, you won't have the same foundation as somebody who's done all that other stuff first, but you can learn all that stuff later. Okay, that's the whole point. Every single programmer eventually ends up on the path of self-learning, all right? And if you start off and you get the specific skills that you need, you can get productive and actually get hired and start working in blockchain. And then once you're a professional, you can start learning all the other stuff that you need to around it. Trust me, when I became a software developer, I had a very limited skill set, but I got hired quickly. And then I learned everything else that I needed to throughout my career in doing this. Now, that brings me to the second question, which is, can you learn blockchain as your first language? So this should be a pretty easy answer from what I just said. Yes, you can learn blockchain as your first language. People think like, oh, I need to learn Python first. I need to learn, JavaScript first just to get some basic programming knowledge. No, I would definitely not say that. I would do exactly what I was talking about. Learn by doing, honing on blockchain, and then you can learn all these other programming languages that you need to do blockchain. And then if you want to learn more programming languages and add them to your tool belt, you can always do that later. So the next question is, do you need a computer science degree to do this? Again, no, you don't need a computer science degree. In fact, you don't need any degree necessarily to become a professional developer. Because at the end of the day, really, most people care about what you can do. And if you can code and you can prove that you can code through everything that I've talked about in this video, by learning it, by doing the unguided development process, creating your portfolio, and putting it out there where you can prove that you have the skills to pay the bills, then most people don't care about what your degree is, especially if you're trying to get some type of entry-level job. Now, there's certain types of jobs where you need a computer science degree, but vast majority of them, you do not. The whole point is if you want to become a blockchain developer, you do not need a degree. You do not even need a computer science degree. So the last thing I will say is, the last frequently asked question I get all the time, which is, how long does this process take? Okay, so, the answer is always, it depends. So the fastest that I have personally helped somebody do this in is in 2 months, okay? So basically somebody was able to, I've actually got a video about it on my YouTube homepage, you can go see that. Basically, they were able to, with my training, go from basically nothing to becoming a blockchain developer and getting their first job in a 2-month time frame. Now, that's on the faster end of things, okay? But, setting a timeline of 3 to 4 months would be almost twice as long, but pretty fast, okay? But if you're doing this, step by step completely on your own, you could back off your expectations and make that 6 months. You can make it 9 months. You can make it 12 months. It also depends on how much time do you actually have to devote to this. You want to figure out hey, do I have 5 hours a week to do this? Do I have 20 hours a week to do this? Do I have 40 hours a week to do this? If you have way more availability, maybe you're single, maybe you have kids, you have to figure out what that is and then put together a plan of attack to where you can actually work through the curriculum and work through the steps that you need to do, the entire roadmap that I'm talking about, to forecast what that goal is. Now, the final thing I'll say is that whatever your timeline is, you need to set a goal, okay? And the maximum goal that I would recommend anybody do is 1 year, all right? You could probably do it a lot sooner than that, but I would say a maximum goal is 1 year. Now, why do I say set a goal? Because work tends to take the amount of time that you give it. And if you don't have a goal, you're not going to feel the urgency to do this, all right? You're just going to kind of sit back and be like, well, yeah, I'll get around to it. But if you say, no, I'm going to do this in 6 months, you start reverse engineering and saying, okay, in 6 months, I need to have this done by month 1. I need to have this done by month 2. And you're going to actually start executing towards those milestones. If you say, I want to do it in 3 months, well, then I've got a lot of work to do in 3 months, okay? You could take everything I'm talking about, the roadmap, to do this. So you want to give yourself a timeline. You want to set a goal. And even if it takes you a little bit longer than that goal, you still want to have something that you're aiming toward in order to stay focused and actually take action. All right, so that's an overview of how to become a blockchain developer in 2024. So I cannot stress enough what an insane opportunity for developers there is in the blockchain industry in 2024. It's one of the fastest growing fields in tech. There's an insane demand for blockchain developers. It's one of the highest paying fields in tech. It's super remote friendly, and you get to work on really exciting technology. I mean, what's not to love? So I hope you got a lot of value out of this video. And if you want to take action on everything that I'm talking about today, then what can you do right now when you're finished? Well, definitely, go ahead and click that like button down below and subscribe to this channel. When you click the like button, it really helps this video out on YouTube. YouTube shows it to more people. And I would really appreciate that for all the time and effort that I put into making this video just for you. And make sure you subscribe as well, because I'm going to be dropping a bunch of blockchain courses for you to follow in 2024 for free on this YouTube channel. Now, you can go look at any of the courses that I've done already if you want to start that guided development process on my YouTube homepage. You can pick anyone that looks interesting to you and get started learning the programming language today. And once you go through those, or maybe you want to skip past those and go straight for the throat and build, a real world application like I showed you before, that decentralized cryptocurrency exchange, I can show you to do that step by step from start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You really don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So whether you want to break in the industry, increase your salary well past 100K, build your own trading bots with DeFi, flash loans, whatever, I can show you everything step by step inside the blockchain bootcamp. So that's all I got for today. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.